Hello, I'm Quinny. Welcome to the channel, guys. In this video today, me and the super rare chat guys, McBride Ace, McGawka, and Hendo SoRare, we go back together after the last videos we made, just to have a little catch up, talking about super rares, talking about the platform, a bit of blue sky thinking, and a bit of preview for the European season ahead, how well equipped we are, what kind of things we're targeting, all that good stuff, guys. If you're new around here, please make sure you do like, subscribe, and share, retweet, and whatever else, all that good stuff, guys. And let's get stuck into it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back.
Sorry.
Oh, you're back.
There he is.
What's going on?
The American bud was fed up listening to me talking about the transfer window.
Yeah. Just saying a bit. Just looking on the face of things, Quinny, and just sort of wait, I've deleted teams now. Fuck. Yeah, just looking on the face of like
teams this week as well.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened here. It's just deleted one of my teams randomly. That's weird.
Good. Yeah, I've got a pretty mad training team there. Nubel and Boadu and stuff in a training team, but then like Boadu's not really, you don't know if he's going to start now, like obviously because he's got Monaco. So I think he will, because he couldn't play midweek and they won, so they couldn't play him because he wasn't registered in time. So I think he'll probably play at the weekend, but then just like a DMP just snookers you these days, isn't it? Like just don't want to risk it.
I think you've got less chance guys like Boadu DNPing, but then like when a team signs your guy and your guy's like the mid, maybe he'll break into the team kind of guy, they've got DNP written all over them, until they're settled. But a guy like Boadu, who's big name, big transfer, it's like through the Ashes, just go straight in, it's like he's going to play. That's why we spent 40 million on you or whatever it
was. They quite as much. Sherky as well. I've never start him. And like he's actually got, when he's been on the pitch, quite a good assist record as well. So it's like kind of probably no any excuse for not starting him, but just like try to find a place to fit him in. Like it's a nice problem to have, obviously. So
get Cherky in my under 23 D4. I think on Jers is a good fixture.
Yeah, well I've got Kakari and Toko Akambi in my champion 4, so they both played really well last game as well, and Akambi getting an assist, so I think actually suits him that the pie's away, because obviously I think they played Dembele up front in the last one, so like so I think that kind of suits Akambi, because I think he's maybe getting a bit more of the ball than he was before. Like makes sense, wouldn't it? So
let's have a scout at Discord. It's been a while.
Yeah,
I usually just go down and see. It's the only good ones I think I like. If people are putting single cards up, I tend to just ignore them unless it's like a really premium card. See people who are selling full galleries and want to trade full galleries and stuff. Sometimes there's little gems in there, or even like little pieces that sometimes complement your gallery quite well. If someone's got like a defender that goes with your goalkeeper, but it's not something you thought of, if you can pick that up quite cheap, I feel that's quite a good way to pad out your collection, if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for anyway.
You go into the Discord, is that the want to sell channel you're digging through, or the want to trade?
I do both, because obviously I got the want to buy, and if someone's like, if there's interest in my player, it maybe just lets you know if it's like a player you're waiting for it to go up, and then you can maybe look at the news and you see, oh, actually, yeah, there you go, he's got his transfer or something like that. Or I had a few for McMath, I think a couple of weeks ago, because obviously he's now started a few games in a row.
Yep.
And saying that, I actually should check his price, because I maybe look to sell him. But
I find like the want to buy in like direct offers and everything are quite good when maybe you don't know that somebody's like moved or is on the move, and then it's like one day like all of a sudden I'll get 3 offers for a player or whatever, and I was like, I've not done off for this guy for 2 months. What's going on here? So it's kind of good, because then you're like, my first reaction is, right, what's happened to him? Like, and then you go and you look and you're like, no, that's definitely not. But that's why I don't keep a lot of guys listed, because like with backup goalkeepers, like unless you're listing them at full price, if you list them at below full price, they're probably only going to sell if they've moved. So why are you listing? Like, so if they've moved in and they get a starting slot or whatever, then all of a sudden they're worth 0.3. So you're either going to list them for full price, or you're going to maybe try and go somewhere in the middle, so you see if you can catch a rumour or whatever. But you don't want to be listing them like really low, because then you're just susceptible to somebody moving, and then you've lost them, and like they're a goner, for like 80 quid. Which is stupid. But
Good point. Because you've been really good as well at moving some stuff on. It does help when you've got multiples, I'll give you that. But you're good at biding your time and picking your moments with a lot of these guys you're moving on as well.
I think, remember we were talking before, it was really interesting. So remember we were talking over the summer, we were talking about the market and how, like, maybe the American cards had come out and the super rares had put a few out and they were quite affordable, and we were kind of like, oh, this is good because you can build a super rare team and stuff. And like what's happened now is like all the market's active. So like because there's a big build up to a big game week, it's quite a good week to punt on a couple of cards if you want to like reinvest in somebody or if you want to just take some profit from somebody. So it's probably like almost the ideal time to sell some guys in your gallery. It's a massive game week. The prizes are superb. Everybody's hyped about Europe coming back. Prices are going through the roof with some of the players. So probably a perfect time to turn over a couple of duplicates, or if you've got somebody you want to punt on and maybe pick somebody up later or whatever, then punt them on. But I have got better at selling because I know I always say this and I always end up with 50 cards more. So the last time I cut it down, remember I got it down about 500, and then next time I looked at like 550. That's insane. But my super, like what I've done quite well now is my super rares have went up a lot. So I feel as if I've got a lot better quality in the super rares. That gives me access to Division 2 23s and feel as if I can put out quite a strong team in all the threes. And that's where all of my good wins are coming, because the tier ones that you're getting in the Division 3s are absolutely brilliant. They're so good. Like the quality of the cards, like when you get up there, you're finishing like 14th or whatever, and you're winning a really good tier one. So it definitely is worth it. I think what they've done with the rebalance the rewards, like obviously it's taking a bit of work, but I think it's worked really well. So it encourages you to move up from D4 to D3, and then I don't have much experience in D2, so I'll probably have the heartbreaking Sunday, but you've got to try them. So.
Oh, the prizes in D2 this week are brilliant. I've sent to you guys in the chat as well, so you'll probably know where I'm going with this, but I've been waiting a long time to see this game week, to see the reward pool, and I'm a bit gutted that there's no unique at the top of D2 and there's no super rare at the top of D3. I do think that's...
Then at least back next weekend, so next weekend will be the first time where all the leagues are running, right? So
we'll have a good indication.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll... I mean...
It'll be a bit premature.
Yeah. Well, I suppose what I've noticed is, like, I remember I had one of the Asia 2s and I got a Asia super rare tier 3, and it was like worth about 60 quid. So like people automatically think, oh, that's great, you can win a super rare, but a lot of the lower tier ones aren't really that valuable. So you'd almost be better to win a champion Europe tier 1 or lower end of the tier 1 than you would do winning a champion Asia tier 2 super rare or something. Like if you look through the pools, like, and you gauge the prices and things, like, I think the advice is try and go for as high a tier as you can get. I know everybody's trying to win, but try and aim for a high tier, because the tier ones and everything that they're giving out just now, I think it's maybe because of more clubs and there's more star players and everything, but some of the tier ones are ridiculous. That Carlson I won during the week was a tier 1. Like, it's mad, isn't it? Like, he's a tier 1. It was £1,000. Like,
All-Star D3 this game week, star rares go back to position 26.
That's
26
really...
star rares, you know what I mean? Like, you've seen the leaderboards before with star rares, like top 4, top 5, top 8 at best. 26. I've definitely finished like 28th before in D3 and not won a card at all.
Yeah, I've done that multiple times actually. I've done that in that exact division. I think it's just like we're all in a similar position, even though we've got like it's quite weird. We're in a similar position, but we've all got very, very different galleries, like very different. But the way, obviously, my ratio of super rares to rares is much higher, so the way I can compete in higher divisions, and I've seen it this season a lot, and I'm actually glad I geared up that way. But you miss a little bit of the excitement of like having these really, I would almost say the really strong looking rare lineups when you've got like not 5-star rares necessarily, but you've got ones that like great fixture, star rare, great fixture. And you look at that and you go, wow, that's a peach. Yeah. I don't think you quite get that with super rares, because I think you maybe buy a great player and then you're forced to play him on maybe a less favourable game week. But obviously it's when the two things marry together and you've got the super rare with the great game week, and then if you can manage to do that at D2 level, you're laughing. Obviously, you've got a chance against anybody, even the whales with the unique and stuff like that. And obviously, I got done by the unique. Was it 2 weeks ago now? 3 weeks with the Madran got 100 score with the unique, so 145 points right off the bat. So
yeah,
that was
but then I was thinking about it as well. So if you've got a super rare and then you captain it, then it's same points as the unique. So but before I was looking at it, I was thinking, right, if you've got 5 supers and somebody's putting in 4 supers and a unique, you're always going to run into a unique. But if you spread that over the course of the 5 cards, that's not as big an advantage as you would think. Obviously, I'm not getting near a D1 or whatever. I was getting into D2, but actually, that's not bad. So you've been unlucky he's hit 100. But if you hadn't done 100, then you would have probably won that tournament. So you can definitely compete. So
that's it. I think Reynoso scored 88, and he was my captain. So it was almost like a normal unique getting an 88 score, which is still like that's about picking the right captain. Whereas obviously he had his captain plus the unique. So like his unique score in the 100 is like that would be like Reynoso scoring 100 plus he has another captain.
He's been really, really good since you bought him as well, hasn't he? Like he's just. Every time I look at him, he's like 80 something. Like
he was the player though. Like that's about having a bit of background knowledge. You know, I said to you ages ago, like he was number 1 priority. I said that all through summer. I was like he was the number 1 priority to get. Missed the 1 of 100 for like I think he was only about 0.8 or something, or he might have been more. But I've definitely missed the second one, which went for more. I think, and I think I ended up paying. It could have been 0.8 or something. I can't really remember, but
no, I don't think it was much. Is that was it for?
I think it was. Maybe it was like 0.5, possibly.
It was not like £800 or £900, like so.
Yeah, 0.58, and it was just shy of £1,000. So I think it's just like that was great timing for the 3 out of 10, but it was a card that had been on the radar for ages, and a nice little first owner. I like that.
His last 5 is 38, 88, 79, 78, 85. It's like that, like 4 high scores in a row, so that's pretty good. He's only 25 as well, so that's
he was. I'm not gonna lie, he was like when I thought about. I guess it's a concept that doesn't get spoke about a lot, and this might be somewhat good for the video, but like sort of refreshing the collection, and it's not got to a stage where I don't think anybody has to do it yet, but it's something that I'm thinking ahead to. So it's like Zella Ryan, for example, was like 28, 29. And they're a very sort of similar ilk of player, like attacking midfielder. They're like the heart of like everything good that their team does. I feel like Zella Ryan's almost like the stage behind. If you had Ladero, for example, and then Ladero's almost like a stage behind the lad that's at the Timbers. Can't remember his name. Valeri, I think that's his name. If you think of them in a stage, they're all similar ilk of players, but they're all at different sort of age timelines, and then their price reflects it. That's the way I think about it, because Zella Ryan was a big buy when I got him. And now he's actually sort of like a D3 level player, because I've actually found it to be slightly less like sort of peaky. He's like his peaks are sort of like 70s. Yep. So found him at sort of D3 level. And obviously with him going on, once he's like 30, it'll probably not be a card that I'm too interested in. I'll maybe just look to move on for what I got him for. And then I've been like, I've got 2 years utility out of him, and I've already replaced him well ahead of time. And then by the time I've got to sell him, I'll have replaced Reynoso, hopefully. That's how the cycle should work, I think, about refreshing. But I don't know what you think about
that. Yeah, that's a good way of playing it. Future proofing it, like to want to make sure that you've got a couple of years left. Like, say, all the guys I bought for the under 23s, like I'm trying to aim for guys that are no older than 22. So this year in the 23s and next year, because I don't want to buy somebody and then because he's going out the 23s price dropping, because it's no longer 23 qualified as well. Because I think that I know obviously they had to update the rewards and all that sort of stuff as well, but I think there's still a bit of a premium for 23s players, because you can play them in 23s and they're only playing against other under 23s and the scoring's lower, plus a lot of great prizes in under 23s as well. So
and youth players in football, anything, are always
really expensive.
We all love to think about a wonder kid and I played this guy in my FIFA team or my football manager team. He's only 18 or 19. He's going to rip it up. Well, everyone's kind of after that brownie badge of finding people, and SoRare's a great place to do that, because those brownie badges you sell them for ETH.
I know. Right, I've got money for one more. Right, so I've got nearly 0.8. I know who I'm kind of thinking I'm after, but you guys want to have a guess? I think who you would want to buy if you were buying an under 23 super rare.
It's on the market now.
I want to buy many.
Yeah, but you can have a look if you want, but like obviously, and a few of them are probably listed around about over an F and probably a bit unrealistic. But yeah, who do you think you would fancy around about that level?
Over EU23.
Let's
Must be
have a
European.
look.
Bear in mind that 0.8's now
A good amount.
high water amounts, nearly 1800, so it's pretty good.
I'll look at favourites first. That's
No
always a
lying.
good place to start.
Yeah, I think if I could get him for 0.8, I would be delighted.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said super rare.
Yeah, super rare.
I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah,
you were saying the rare was at that price.
No.
Super
No,
rare's at
yeah,
that price.
yeah, but I want to buy another super, like a kind of good quality one using D2 quite regularly. So
If Jonathan Okone could be slightly more consistent, he would be great because there's one up for like 0.86 and
yeah,
he's
we
just
had you
not
get two
consistent.
assists when he came on our game, didn't he? Or a goal and assist. So he's probably kind of moved himself up the chain a wee bit.
I've
Who
always
was that,
felt
sorry?
Coney and Bamba are a wee bit overrated, but they do well, don't they? Both of them.
Yeah. Well, I tell you who I'm thinking.
Go for it.
Brendan Aronson.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
What's he going for?
I can see-
Super rare?
Kevin Paredes.
Yeah.
Like me,
That-
Kev.
Quite look, Paredes he's only 18 now, isn't he? And he's been quite good recently. Plus, he's been playing quite a lot. So I'm trying to kind of look at guys. I don't want to be spending that amount of money on somebody that's not going to play until like next year. I want somebody that's starting. So obviously Addison's going to start, but he went for, was it the boy Joshua bought him for like 0.3 or 0.4 or something the night before Austria landed, and then obviously Austria landed, and then he went berserk. But he's listed him a couple of times, and then he's been kind of obviously coming down a wee bit. He's bought those like supers for a flip, so try to see whether maybe he'll kind of come down to an affordable level. Because I think like if I could get Brendan Aronson for about 0.8 or something, I would spend it.
I
Honestly,
think so. That sounds good to me. Obviously, now that he's got the added utility, you're laughing.
yeah.
Even though I think is it 33 games that they get in the season?
It's just like the Scottish League. It's just like the Scottish League.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Well, I think
But
they'll be
they're
in the top
split, they play
six.
twice, I think.
I think they'll definitely be in the top six. Let's try to think. Who else was I looking at? Diber Caicedo at Vancouver. He's been different class, like, but his prices went fucking through the roof.
Just like Fuentes, eh?
Yeah, I know. Lucky with the timing on that. Barco as well, but cheapest in the market for Barco is 1.3. It's probably a bad time to buy him because he was in average form and then he's just had two great games in a row, so it's probably exact worst time to buy him.
Probably
You can get a 1 of 10 Shappy if you want for 0.28.
I've got Shappy.
What, super rare?
Yeah.
Oh,
no
nice.
way.
I have it. Lowest Aronson is 1.1. So not a million miles away. If Horvath starts on Saturday, I'll be able to afford one. But that's nice. And there's some of the Shakhtar supers are up for like 0.6, which is interesting because you look at how much the Austrian cards went up when they launched the league. I think obviously Ukraine might be a bit further away, but that's quite interesting as well if you want to take a longer term type view on it too. Is the actual quality you're looking at? If you say I want a Botman or something, you're talking about 2 or 3F or something which is obviously insane. But then that's the quality of these guys, and I don't blame anybody for asking for that amount if they own the super rare. Why would you sell a super rare like that on the cheap? Hakimi, 7.8F bargain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had Akimi Super Rare sold recently for like 2.5 ETH or something like that.
Yeah.
Like recently. And a guy messaged me, I wouldn't say who, it's a big account, I'll tell you later if you want, but he messaged me and he's basically said, I might even have sent you the screenshot, but he sent me a message saying something to the tune of mate, Hakimi will be much better in my gallery because I've got much better super rares to put around him, and I'll give you a bunch of average super rares for him. He's only worth 2.4. It's like, mate, fuck off.
Yeah.
Get too fucked.
That's exactly what I would have said. Fucking
Aye.
actual.
Not a great sales technique from him.
Oh no.
Or
I
buying
always
technique.
laugh at that as well. Somebody comes on and then they start saying why the person's got a problem. My initial question then is, well, why do you want to buy him then? You know, I remember when Paco moved over to the K League, and somebody messaged me, Hendo, and he said he'll never get through quarantine. So I messaged him and said, well, why do you want to pay 0.5 for him then? Like, oh, well, and I was like, well, but you're telling me he's not going to get in, so, and he's not got a club just now, so why are you trying to buy him then? Get yourself to fuck, honestly.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That was some buy getting him in. I think
I regret not doing it.
it was literally just a classic sort of keep searching on my lunch break for like anything on my favourites list, and he just popped straight up. It was like the easiest buy. Yeah, so it was 0.1 ETH, and it was 96 quid at the time. So
Yeah.
Easy.
Mad. Did I tell you I traded one of the rares last week?
Yeah, was it 0.2 plus? Oh no,
no. Somebody offered me
Elliot Senko. No,
the defect. I got him plus 100 quid.
yeah, it's class.
Nice.
Yeah, that was pretty good because I've been listing him at like 0.3, and somebody messaged me and they wanted to do their trading stuff, and then Eljitchenko never played the last two games, came on for the bench because Gustavo has been totally smashing it. Then the guy sent me an offer of 0.5 plus him, and I thought like that was just a no-brainer because like he's got a really good track record. Plus, like obviously I've got a couple of Acco rares as well, so thought like he's, even if I decide to move that one, he's going to be pretty easy to move on as well if I wanted to. So yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm still looking to the under 23 supers here. So yeah, there's nothing really that new up. Like Riotor Araki, young boy, he's up for an F. But he's probably worth that, to be honest. But his form's been so good that I'm getting to wonder whether he'll have a dip or not. Like just keep banging in goal contributions.
You kind of have to remember a bit, like we were just saying, the scores are lower in D4. Like, I need to keep reminding myself because I keep thinking like those super rares that I've got there, I've kind of accumulated a lot of like average ones for under 23. But in terms of under 23, like being like slightly above average is probably actually being quite good. And there's still pieces to add. Like obviously Stengs is injured, and he's probably top tier for under 23 to use solely in that division. Obviously Jonathan David, he's probably top tier as well. And then picking up that Maximenko, that's like about as good a goalkeeper as you're going to get, super rare anyway. And there's just not a lot of them kicking about.
Because you're not like, people are not going to pay. I don't think people play Mbappe super rare in Division 2 under 23s are probably going to put him in the champion, aren't they? So he's going to be in like champion D1 or champion D2 or something. Because
I was going to say that he's going to be the super rare in D1 or whatever.
Yeah, which is kind of good because you're looking at the global under 23s, and I was thinking, right, who do I want to buy? This I ended up buying Alvarez because I was looking at strikers or forwards. I was thinking, right, like Daryl Dike, I really like, but loads of transfer. News, Brenner, really like. Awesome, Julian Alvarez, guys like that. And then obviously try to get somebody who's not like 3F.
Yeah.
If I had 3F, then I would consider it, but like I don't, and also it's a lot of money obviously to spend on one card as well. So you could buy a Daryl Dike or something, and he's smashing in goals all over the place. Next minute he's sitting on the bench at Crystal Palace because that was the last one. Like, Crystal Palace, like I mean, he did. And honestly, like he did really well at Barnsley, didn't he? But the reason he done really well there is because he was getting lots of game time. So the problem with these guys go to a bigger club and then they end up sitting on the bench, and then you've got no utility or whatever. So yeah, it's interesting.
Telling you boys, Matt's caller is going to pay off. I'm determined for him to pay off. I've not even checked Willem 2's. Yeah, I've not even checked their most recent friendly. Did he play? Yes, he did. I'll take that. He's played most preseason games, so I think we might see him get a starting berth. A little 1 out of 10 from last season. So that'll be his first issue card. Not that means really much. 167 quid, under 23 forward. If he
That's
does,
nice.
if he starts smashing it in, who knows? And then the little ace up the sleeve, I think. Yeah, the little ace up the sleeve, I think, is Manor Solomon for if there's any European games. Like if they actually, I don't know how Shakhtar got on actually, so I might be talking at Mars.
Yeah, they dominated Genk twice. So, but then
Genk
they've got
out.
Monaco in the playoff. So, but the only good thing with that is Monaco or Shakhtar will be in the Europa League group stage because the loser goes in Europa League. So, I think Monaco probably that's a hard game. Like because Shakhtar are a really good European team. Like they went to the semi-final 2 years ago, the Europa League. So.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting one. Big Traore's been absolutely banging them in since he joined. So
Yeah, if Shakhtar went on to the group stage and finished third, am I right in saying they would go into the Europa League
as well,
they would drop down?
yeah. So if they lose to Monaco next, they go in the Europa League group stages. If they get into the Champions League and then come third, they go into the knockout stages of the Europa League.
So is it the round of 32 or something?
Yeah, same with Conference League. So the Conference League drops, the Europa drops into the conference.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, I think so because
From the group stage.
I'm pretty sure they've mirrored it because when you're going down the ladder, like if you're in the Champions League qualifiers, you're guaranteed to be in a group stage. Because if you lose, you would go in the Europa League, and then if you lose that, you would go into like the conference main league or the playoffs. So it's like unless you lose like 3 games in a row, you're going to be in Europe in some form if you're in the Champions League qualifiers, and then Europa, I think, mirrors what happens to the Champions League. I need to double check that. I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing because what they're trying to do is make sure that the clubs get as many games as possible in terms of European football. So
more games on the telly, more money.
more SO5 games for us. So from our perspective, it's great. But
yeah, so that's good. That's 2 good topics to talk about actually. So like Conference League teams are stacks. So say for example, Spartak Moscow end up in the Conference League. They then become like probably one of the favourites to win the Conference League, don't they? Because the Conference League's like all the teams that came 4th and 5th.
Yeah.
And you've got like obviously Feyenoord, where just like everybody was scoring like 80 to 100 and everything because we're playing against a team that was just absolutely dire. And then the other topic I think is really fun is what's going to happen when Messi comes on. So if you get a Messi card, like what is that going to ignite the champion? Is the whole thing going to go ballistic? Will there be specific divisions you might want to target in terms of buying some players because you think they're going to rise? So I think that's dead interesting.
I think the Messi thing's well interesting because I don't see him like I think he'll be like the false super rare in D2, like because his average is so good. Like it's like what is it over 75? I think his average is
it's crazy.
Yeah.
He's like he's
get more 90 pluses than sub 50s.
It's like he's got like hundreds coming out his arse.
So if you get him in there, he's going to put 100 up. Like there's not many super rares that are going to guarantee that week in week out.
Yeah. So he's
not Neymar. Like Neymar's going to play like 60% of games.
Guess what his last 40 is? You know what?
Is it like 77?
You're not going to believe this.
86.
86.
Is it? Oh my gosh.
86. You're not. He's seeing that time. He said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He said 12 100s, and he said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 11 90s.
Jeez.
So he said 23 scores of above 90 in his last 40.
He's just gonna like the only thing is obviously it'll only be there for a couple of years, but
and then he'll go to the MLS or something.
I'm listening to the radio today, right? It's just I love a wee bit of talk sport when I'm driving about, and they had the South American guy that I love. His name's Tim Vickery. He was on the day talking about Messi, and what he said. So they were asking him like, "Oh, what do you think about those old boys in Argentina? We thought he was going to leave Barca and go to them, all that kind of chat." And he said, like for all of Messi's career, whenever he goes away for Argentina, like especially when they're at home in matches, he always complains at the nick of the pitches. And as he's got older, he complains a bit louder and louder about that. So this Tim Vickery guy's like, listen, I think he goes to PSG for 2 years and he goes to MLS for for whatever he plays on till, and that'll be the end of it. So that's what he thinks, and he's like, that guy lives in Brazil and he's like an English guy, man, journalist or whatever, but that's what he reckons.
It's just a phenomenon, isn't he? Like they are just they're just unbelievable scores. And I know Spain's not like, but they're just unbelievable scores. Like that is like that's just like cheating. Like that's just like
Exactly.
somebody's actually cheating, and they're cheating so hard that they need to put in some 80s and some 52s and everything because people would think that they're just cheating and putting in 100. Like, but he's only had one score, a 40. Everything else is green, but he's had a couple of 50s, and everything else is 60 to 100. But then it's just all up the top of the chart. It's
Well,
just
for context, right? Just to give you some sort of context. So we all know about Cecilia. Obviously, plays in the K League. He's obviously a bit of a legend on SoRare.
yeah,
But like even his good scores are sort of like if you have a look at his graph, there's a few DMPs and we'll take them out. He's got a similar sort of demographic where like his lowest score is 42 in a long time. That's in the last year. That's class, obviously, apart from DMPs, but you can probably predict him more. But then even his spread is more like 82, 77, 79, 73, blah, blah, blah. He's got a few hundreds, 98s, and all that kind of stuff, right? So his last 40 average is 71, and he's got 88%, so he's played most of the games. His last 5 is 67, and he's a third forward over 15 games, and he's a 6th overall player over 15 games. And Messi's graph makes his look silly.
yeah. That's just unbelievable. Like, so he's going to be the go-to guy in terms of like collectability in future as well, isn't he? Like, obviously, arguably the best player ever, and then he's just he's just the best card to have in terms of scoring as well. So just people are going to just go nuts for that. So like the rares are going to be going for like what
Mega.
10F or something, aren't they? Like,
Mega.
they're just going to be going for crazy amounts, and like the super rare is going to be like insane. I mean, the unique's going to be what 500 grand or something. The unique could go for any price, couldn't it? Like just go for totally any price at all. It would just
Mate,
be,
we've seen a CryptoPunk go for $4.5 million last week. $4.5 million. A unique Messi with the utility that it should and will bring you, even for 3 years, and the collectible value. The fact he might only have like 2 unique cards ever on the platform,
True.
like, yeah, why could it not? Why could it not go for $4.5 million? Why not? A fucking little pixel punk with a hat on went for $4.5 million.
Let's call a spade a spade. If
I
he
don't
goes to
understand.
MLS, he's probably not joining the players' union. Yeah, I don't think he really gives a fuck about contract rights and all that stuff.
No.
use his PSG card.
That's what I'm saying. The two,
We may only have 2 uniques, you know, ever.
this sounds daft as well, but like, see if he had like, let's say Barca were licensed for 1 year, I think his Barca card would go for so much more than PSG, and that is like that does, if it did, that would show you there's a collectible aspect, which I think we all agree that there will be and is to an extent. Obviously, I think there's almost 2 sides to SoRare, I think, and it's like these cards are expensive sometimes when you blend the two. Like we've got expensive cards that maybe are just utility based. I think we all do. It's just sort of part and parcel of the game. We've got cards who are like, right, there's definitely long term viable collectability there. And
Yeah.
Messi is like, Ronaldo's got good scores, Messi's got unbelievable scores, and they're spoke
But then
about
he's
in the
elite.
same, yeah, they're spoke about in the same ilk in real life. Yet I think on SoRare it's going to be like chalk and cheese.
I find the ones that are really interesting are guys like say like Immobile, Buffon, just go through the whole Italy team. It's just won the Euros, right? Bonucci, but like you could buy a Bonucci for say like 150 quid, right? So Juve legend just won the Euros, so like surely that's got to be like quite a high collectible for future. But then he's not Messi, he's not Ronaldo, he's not like a top star type thing. But you think somebody's going to want to collect this stuff, and he won the Euros, you know.
But see, if you think about like the legends from back in the day, the Italian guys. Like imagine, because SoRare's big in Italy, as you guys will know. You know, like if you could buy a Baresi card or even a Costa Curta, you know what I mean, who is a legend, right? But he's not up there with the Maldinis and the Baresis. But even if you could buy a Costa Curta, people would buy that.
I'd buy an Nesta, a Cannavaro, definitely would. I would love to have an Nesta or a Cannavaro. That's what I think with Buffon. Like Buffon is like done so much like for Italy, and he's still playing as well. He's 42, and you're thinking that's got to be worth a couple £100 minimum. Like even if you can't do anything, like it's got to be. In fact, people are still paying 200 or 300 for him just now, and you can't play him. So like it's got to be. And I suppose you've got to look at the scarcity as well in terms of like, how many are minted. So I know like some of the guys like sometimes you only get maybe 20 or 30 of the cards and then they retire or they move to somebody else and they're not a licensed club. And then obviously if there's only like 30 available, then that's going to be really good for you, right? And because there's hardly any available. Whereas some of the guys from like maybe the original teams like Buffon, the only disadvantage would be Juventus have been on since one of the early teams, aren't they? So well, it's probably not looked at the numbers, probably a couple hundred available, but it's still nothing really. It's not.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I think like the champion Euro scene, like the guys like Bonucci that win the Euros, or Immobile that wins the Euros, or he's a Golden Boot winner in Serie A, or Lukaku that wins Inter's first title in 10 years, or I think all these things. That I think the collector element of that and the collector value of them is a real slow burner, which is why I kind of use like Costa Curta as an example, because like if that AC Milan team was around now, Costa Curta would probably be a good like SO5 player, but nobody would think, oh, I'm going to buy him for collectability. But if it goes for that length of time, which we imagine it does, in 20 years' time, that whole team has legend status to people, whether it be like the other centre back or the left mid that no one really remembers, 20 years later. They were all part
Even
of
look
it.
at like, if you think about, we were speaking the other day. This is out with SoRare, just speaking to people like in my friend circle, and we were talking about like great teams of the past like my lifetime. So I'm 23, so it'd be like the great teams in the mind. The first one that come to mind was the AC Milan team of like the mid 2000s, because you can go through every single player in that team and it was just totally ace, like from front to back. So Dida, Cafu, Nesta, Stam, Maldini, Gattuso, Pirlo, Seedorf, Kaká, Rui Costa, Shevchenko, Inzaghi, like that whole sort of core of that team. There's maybe 15, 16 players or whatever, and that team is just a joke. I think if you had the foresight, let's say SoRare was about then, and you had like a full set of these, and you managed to pick up like all the early mints or something, there would eventually be, if it got big enough, to where we've got to think we're looking world, like the whole world could be involved, right? If we get to millions of users or something, there's people that come in that are just like avid AC Milan fans with shitloads of money, and they want that specific set of cards or whatever. That's kind of how you're looking.
Yeah.
And then you sort of see the rest of it, like we were saying, oh, these are great rewards that we're getting and blah blah blah, and he's got great utility. But again, like if you look at that Yamar or whatever, he's worth 0.3 the now. He's a 29-year-old at Seattle Sounders. Like, I'm under no illusions that he's there as a tool to go and win the other stuff. But it's that other stuff that if I can start piecing together, that I think that's where the collectability comes. And I think the end goal for some cards is just going to be they're not worth anything, and that's okay. I think.
Yeah.
I think not every like collectible is worth a lot. Like there's people who've collected things for like 40, 50 years and they're worth fuck all. Yep. There has to be the market there for a certain thing, and at the moment, because utility is like quite big, and because cards are still scarce compared to how many people play SO5, as long as that trend continues, they will continue to be expensive.
What do you think about the 1 out of 1,000? So, like, do you think that kind of highlights like 1 out of 100 is really rare? I know that's what they call them, and this new one's called limited or whatever. So argue about the name, but 1 out of 100, nothing. Like, if there's demand, for me, the reason that players just pop when they're playing really well and they're hitting form is because there's not enough of them. So, like the 1 out of 1,000, if somebody comes in and starts playing well, the price difference will not be as big as the 1 out of 100. Because in the 1 out of 100, out of those guys, if say there's 40 minted and 20 don't want to sell, there's only 20 available, and then all of a sudden you've got 200 people or whatever that want to buy those cards, and you're creating all that demand. So it's like that's like mad for me. And just like I was kind of in my head with oh, we're going to release all the cards this year, and all these new teams coming, and all these goalkeepers and everything coming. We've launched the whole Austrian league. They've got all the new seasons cards, and goalkeepers are still going nuts. So obviously, 1 out of 100 is actually quite a tight scarcity as well. So
I feel like it's a bit of the magpie effect as well, though. With that, it's like new thing, shiny. I must have. Because some of the prices are ridiculous, but yeah, I think when you start to think about it too much, like when you start to think too far ahead, you start to trip over yourself, because the whole point of buying these cards early, especially cards that haven't been minted before or stuff like that, is so that you've got the utility and other people don't. Like that is why the premium is there at the start, and in my opinion, anyway. So years down the line, when there's 500-600 of these cards, there's not going to be that same sort of rush for them. But that's the point. It's like that is 5-6 years down the line. it might be that like none of us, we might not even be on SoRare by then. We might be SoRare millionaires, and we're really laughing all the way to the bank, and we've got 6 properties each, and we don't need SoRare. We get an income at 80k for properties or something. But
I've got a hope.
Costco's mapped it out.
I'll be actually pleased that I'll get 500 cards at that point. Maybe not all of them are obviously good rares, but like.
And there you go. Even like 1 of 100, so 10 seasons in line, there's 1,000 cards. Well, there's already 25,000 people or something. And when you think about it, 25,000 people is fucking nothing. You know what I mean? That's literally nothing. If you could get to 100,000 by the end of the year, if the marketing push goes right and they actually like the Messi thing could set it alight. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying that's a plausible thing. It could 4x by the end of the year. Then you've got 100,000 and you've still got the same supply of cards. So at the moment, say there's 300 cards and there's 100,000 people. Let's say a quarter of them, so 250,000 people will actually want the card, and there's 300 cards. That's the point.
Yeah,
we have a classic example of a wanker. So we were talking earlier about guys who come on and then start talking you down.
Yeah.
Somebody just messaged me and he's looking for a Cunha, and his second line is, he said a lot of injuries. Ethereum's really high. La Liga cards are coming soon. Severia's going to play a new defender. Too many points that make the price down. Nobody's going to pay you 0.9. I don't know why I say that. Just like, what do you want to pay me then? Like, make an offer. Like, what do you think he's worth? Like, fucking hell, man. Excuse my language, but aye. So you just put me down. So
I've got a flat response to those people, and it's always just, what do you propose? Because sometimes you don't know their language as well. So I'm just always like, so what do you? I don't even engage in it and say you're wrong at it. I'm just like, so what do you? Why are you talking?
He's made a good case, you know. I mean, he's injury prone.
They always do.
Too high. We're getting La Liga cards. Sevilla's buying defenders. Like, I mean, like, I understand. It's just a shite, isn't it? Like,
I'd do that, but only to an extent though. Like, I'll do it in terms of if someone says no, far too low, and I'll say, well, if I offered like 0.5 or something, he's like, no, far too low. I want 1 ETH, and I'm like, well, one sold 2 days ago for 0.45, so I'm actually offering you more than that. Like, I try to make a somewhat reasonable case. It's when someone comes in, it's like, they're never going to pay you 0.9, so I'll offer you 0.5. Take it or leave it. I'm giving you.
Do you a favor?
I'm extending the olive branch to you. No, mate. No, you're not.
Yeah, I was trying with Paredes as well, and the guy said 1 sold for 0.8. So yeah, that was a month ago. So like, okay, 1 sold for 0.8. Do you want me to, like, I bought a Mobley for 1.5F or whatever a year ago, but he's only worth £1,000 now. Like, it's all right saying 1 sold for 0.8. Like, you know, how much is he worth just now? People are valuing the fiat, but I always laugh at that as well. Like, you know, I understand that as well. Some people maybe just want to keep the FA. So if the F flies, they're like, well, I'm not selling for less F or whatever. So I do understand that. But at the end of the day, if they want to sell it and this guy's got the card listed, then if he wants to sell it, he's not going to get that at the moment because it's like 500-600 quid more than the guy was 3 weeks ago and nothing's changed. So it's interesting. So this guy's pondering this. I've asked him what he think he's worth. Probably another essay.
I found a golden nugget on Discord, Mark, that I thought you'd be hyped about, and I thought I'll keep it for this little encounter we're having tonight, right? So you'll remember, what was it? Something was popping off on Discord recently. Maybe the golden auctions thing.
Yeah.
Discord was popping, right? And you might have seen it, in fact, because I was so busy, right? But Dan came back with a response, right? And the response was just kind of like, we're talking to them and blah, 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 right? But the one little nugget in it that I found really interesting, and I wrote it on my board, I wrote the points, right? He said, we will start marketing when we have the new scarcity, the onboarding has no bugs, bugs in general don't happen as well. That was a separate point. Customer support is where it needs to be. That was the kind of wording they used. And transaction history is available. And then, like 2 or 3 days later, obviously we were talking about it earlier on when we were recording, the My SoRare thing is updated. There is a transaction history in it. They've further alluded to that and say that they want to have a more complete one that's downloadable and all the rest of it. So that's the like the 5 horsemen that we're waiting to appear. You know, transaction history, new scarcity, onboarding is slick. Everything's slick, and there's actual customer service department. Those are the 5 like things that they're waiting on. And then they push marketing.
The My SoRare bit's really good. Like, even just like when you get that email through now and the guy offers you it and it comes up with the card. Because remember, I sold the Welland Roofer. I got up at 7 in the morning. I had 2 Welland Roofer listed, I had the rare and the super rare listed, and the guy's made me an offer. And I went in and he's offered me like 120 quid. Now, I only bought the super rare for 90 quid at that point, right? Obviously, these are different prices and everything, but it was like 120 quid. And I thought, oh yeah, I'll sell the rare and I'll keep the super rare. And I pressed accept. And then after I pressed accept, it's come up and said, your Division 3 lineup is cancelled. And I was like, oh, the super rare's in Division 3. Fucking sold the super rare. So, but it's so easily done, but like it's just a small thing, right? But like now being able to see when you go in, you see what card the guy's trying to buy and accept and rejects in red and green, and it's nicely laid out, and it's much more difficult to misclick it. Whereas at that point, it was a lot easier to misclick it because you had to actually click on the card to go in and see what you were selling, if that makes sense, apart from reading it. And I was at 7 in the morning and I was like, I shouldn't have pressed anything at that point. So anyway, I was sick at that point to get in the team. As it turns out, it's shite. But the guy did like buy that and then flipped it for like 200 quid more or whatever. And I contacted him in Discord and he ignored me and all that sort of stuff. But then it was my fault because I clicked accept. So, but it's a good example of how things have come on now because it looks a lot better and you get that email through, it shows you the card, shows you who's offering, it shows you how much, it looks nicer, just get a better feel about it. Like so, and I think the order they've done things is really good because the European season and everything's coming up, and you know, I like Asia, I love the MLS and everything, but when I come into SoRare, I'd never watched an MLS game, didn't know who played in Japan, didn't know who played in the K-League. So you're going to attract guys in, you want to get guys who know Mbappe or know whatever, guys at Man United or whatever. Obviously, if we get like somebody like them, would be awesome as well. So, but yeah, I think they've timed it really well, to be honest.
That's the next one. You just said that, like the next or the big wave will come when the EPL is onboarded. I think everybody knows that, and it's just about licensing and how do they actually get around that. I think we're probably a year away, I reckon, from that. I think they'll have a marketing push first. They'll get to a certain level, and I think that'll be like the second sort of wave of marketing. Like that in itself is huge marketing. Getting on that league. So
enormous.
Yeah.
Well, I think we were talking about it in our chat as well this week, but Topps released their NFTs this week, or they attempted to anyway. It's only Bundesliga, and I think there's a little bit of Top Shot vibes about it in terms of like how the things look and whatever. So as we highlight reels, but I went to go buy a pack or two, and like for the full like 5 hours after it launched, there was nothing there. The timer was at 0. You couldn't buy anything. There was no prices listed, nothing. So they had I don't know what happened to it, but point being, Topps do have cards in the Premier League, like physical cards, and the fact that when they've went to do their NFT thing, they've not tried to cheat and use EPL. There probably is some, that restriction that SoRare is overcame or is facing. I beg your pardon. They may have also known that was there because they're involved in that market already anyway, and they've just went for Bundesliga because it might have been easier or.
Is there like a rumour that the Panini have got a thing these only be like one club at a time or something that could be licensed? I guess like the argument to that is, do they continue the good relationship they've got with Liverpool, or do they say, well, we would like to have a season of Man United cards or whatever, or maybe all this funding and everything they've got, maybe they're just going to have to buy that out at some point, but they can't afford it just now. So maybe it could be a few million or something. So you go and say, can I buy that out? Because they were talking about this big round of funding and everything, and I'm thinking they're selling it like 180 cards a day or whatever. Why do they need this money? But one of the reasons they might need the money is so they can say, right, there you go, there's 5 million, there's 10 million, whatever the figure is, like we're going to buy that. Exactly, yeah. Just say, well, like that deal's in place, but we want to buy out that contractual arrangement. Like we want, and like once they've bought it out, they could negotiate some sort of exclusivity or whatever, and then all of a sudden they've got the EPL rights. But like people that send you these things, they say, oh, it's like the Topps things coming, and you think as if that's a threat, but there's no utility to it. And also, I think it's a good thing because it raises the awareness of the NFTs, so people then go, well, I'm going to buy the digital version rather than the physical card. And then once they become aware of SoRare, they've already kind of transitioned to thinking, well, I'll hold the digital version instead of the physical card. So I think it's actually a good thing rather than a bad thing. It's not diluting the value of your 1 out of 100, because you're 1 out of 100 when you play in the tournaments. So But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, like you wouldn't want somebody to go and launch something similar to SoRare, but ultimately competition makes things stronger as well. So make them up their game, improve the website, get the app sorted. I don't know, whatever.
You go first to market advantage. Obviously, you're the first to do it. So
yeah,
I think
years of experience, club relationships, like existing users, like there's loads of stuff, isn't there? Like
I think we're all somewhat in agreement in terms of obviously SO5 is great, but I think we want they want as well, obviously, to bring you closer to the experience of football. I think in some way, shape, or form. We don't know how they're going to do it, but obviously, I think just the way that the NFTs tie in and being on the blockchain and having verifiable ownership and all that kind of stuff, somewhere down the line, I feel like that will come into play. And even if it's the stuff that they do with Special Weekly, like top 5 winning shirts and stuff like that, they could be experiences to football games, and you know, top prize could end up being like a trip away for a Champions League game or something. They pay for all the expenses because, to be fair, that's probably cheaper than the ETH and the cards that they're paying out. Well, not the cards, obviously. Cards cost them nothing, but
yeah, but if they're partnering with clubs as well, so the club says, right, like say you've got PSG or whatever, you say they're going to give you a match day package or whatever to give out to people, and you can make that part of the top of the tournament prizes. Or the other thing I was thinking about would be quite cool. I really like the SO11 stuff on SoRare Data. I know not everybody's got strong teams for that, but it'd be kind of cool if you had like a monthly leaderboard or a yearly leaderboard. So just thinking like, how do you let like some of these guys who are doing really, really well in the lower scarcities move up? So like even if you're 1 out of 1,000, you could say, right, if you come in the monthly leaderboard, you put all your scores together, and then the top 5 win star rares or something, and that lets those guys win like rares from the lower divisions. In the same way as like I'm thinking, right, okay, I could probably sell like 10 cards and buy a unique, but like if you had like a monthly leaderboard or even a yearly leaderboard or a competition leaderboard for a certain season, and if you won a good star or a tier 1 unique or something, like how good would that be? Like, I would just add so much value to your ongoing stuff. So that would be quite interesting. I wish they would do something like that, but that might be something they could do once the availability of cards and everything goes up and they move things on. So
I think there's going to be a few different kind of little things that will happen at different stages, and it will kind of like unlock a wave of like innovation. Like Ross, when you're talking there about EPL, I think that's a massive one. I also think you know, when like maybe even we get an arrangement similar to what we have in Challenger Europe with Austria, Belgium and Holland. Once we get an arrangement like that in Champion Europe, I think that will also be like a gatekeeper passage. You know, once you get a license agreement with Bundesliga, Liga, and you know, La Liga, EPL, whatever it is, I think that will kind of open the swing, because you guys will remember as well as I do, they mentioned in AMAs and stuff that they are getting approached by people, you know, the clubs to say, oh, can you get our club on? And, you know, all the rest of it. It's probably Austria, you know, it's probably a part of it, I would suspect. But once you get a big league signing on for that, then the other ones all sheet factor around it. But we've seen it last year where it was Bayern, then it was PSG, then it was Real, then it was Liverpool. You know, once one of the big dominoes falls, you know, you tend to find, and then subsequently, like you're saying there, the real world interactions and then the bigger prizes. I think once that kind of, you know, they reach those milestones, they'll then go, right, let's roll out the forward planning kind of stuff again.
And what you could do is, like, if you're doing those match day experiences and things too, like you could have some tie-ins with the clubs as well. So, like, if you've got a, like, say, Man United, I know obviously that's probably not the best example because EPL is going to set it light anyway. Say you get Celtic and Rangers, right? So say you get the SPL license, you get Celtic and Rangers, you 50,000 at Ibrox and you get 60,000 at Parkhead. Most of those people will not know what SoRare is. So you maybe have some sort of advertising opportunity with a club where you agree when you're doing the license and the cooperation and everything, you're going to use Celtic's Twitter account, you're going to do something in the match day program or whatever, you know, like you can reach those people. Whereas obviously with football, with no fans been on, you're only talking about TV advertisement and everything, and all that sort of stuff is really expensive. So I think like working with the clubs will work really well, to be honest.
I think as well, like, see when you watch like activity on like Twitter, especially from like football players, one of the things that does get a lot of hype and a lot of buzz is when like new FIFA cards come out. You know, they get one sent to their house. They're all about their stats. Also, SoRare's a little bit different stats wise, you know, because it's not FIFA, it's not a static kind of component. But that whole new season card angle, or if they get like player of the week, player of the month, we've seen special editions of cards before for different things. They can do any number of things with special cards. You know, getting that kind of tie-in as well with the club, of course. If it's a player, you know, you set them in the stadium with a card, and you know, and then everyone is like, oh, he's got a SoRare card that is purple. You know, what does that mean? You know, and then it opens.
One of the clubs not released their team lines in the format. I can't remember what they did. Was it Marseille or something? Like they have their, like they put out their team, and it's in the same format as like FIFA or Ultimate Team or something like that. So it's obviously
really?
like a tie-in. I don't know if is it Marseille. I'm going to look.
Cool. I like that.
I think it might be Marseille. So I've seen it and I thought that looks kind of familiar.
It was FIFA.
Might be like when they put out their team line, it just kind of looks like the lineup as it would look in the game or something. So just kind of creates a kind of cross marketing opportunity. So obviously they've not been playing recently, so I don't know if we'll be able to see it in their Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm sure they had like the guy's card on it or whatever. Like see what you were saying about like obviously like FIFA and how they have these cards and all their ratings and everything on it. Like they actually had that on their team line or whatever. Like here's our captain, and it was like the card was up. I might just be talking shit, but that happens a lot, so just ignore me. Let's go.
Join the club, man. Well, I've got an offer in. Would you?
Yeah. So see if you look at on Marseille's Twitter, right? Like it says starting 11 versus Montpellier, George Salpal named his first 11. And then the starting 11 is in the format of FIFA 22 Ultimate Team. So they've obviously sponsored that. And it looks like an Ultimate Team lineup. So like SoRare could do stuff like that. You could say like, obviously, like this is our starting lineup or whatever. And then you would see like the guys' pictures on the cards, like you've created the team on SoRare or whatever.
Yeah. Quite cool. In that same kind of format with SoRare cards, I would granted.
Yeah. There's stuff like that I think is really interesting because obviously it's just about people's awareness of like what it is and everything. So everybody knows what Ultimate Team is, and like I don't play it. Obviously I played it when I was younger, but I know my brother plays it and everybody all goes mad for it and spends money on it and get hee-haw back, and it's just like yeah. It's like SoRare, like it's just like kind of feels like a mix between digital Panini and Football Manager. It's just like it's a bit insane.
It's a massive hybrid. And see, last time the three of us got together and we were chatting and doing a video or whatever, we were, you know, the main kind of thing was we were chatting about super rares, and it was a big kind of vibe was like getting things early, prepping, buying ahead. You know, what you're seeing earlier on with Paredes, it's probably the worst time to buy them. There's a few cards like that. I think all of us managed to buy some really good cards at that kind of earlier opportunity.
Yeah.
For me, I kind of referenced this before, and you guys will be the same. We were picking teams earlier. This has been a game week, or you know, we're now coming into a period of that we've had great expectations around, like can't wait. Now that we're here, how do you feel with what you've got? Do you feel like you armed yourself appropriately, or do you feel like, oh fuck, I've underestimated, or you know, how do you feel where you are at now compared to say 3 months ago, SO5 wise?
Yeah, I'm really happy to be honest, but then I've won a lot of quality recently as well, so like that's probably been part of it too. Like I'd never bought like Carlson, so for example, like he's a guy I would have liked in the 23s, but I just didn't have like 800 quid kicking around or whatever without selling somebody else going to hamper my team. Winning guys like that's unreal. Even just like goalkeeper, I know I carry lots of goalkeepers, but a lot of them are backups. So winning like the boy from John Book, Song Bung Kung or whatever, Bum, so we call him. But he's like obviously a top under 23 goalkeeper. So having somebody like that you can just either put in a 23 team or a midweek team or an Asian team is brilliant. And obviously I'd won him as well. So it feels like it's kind of come together, but also I'd kind of consolidated a lot of the rares into super rares and sold some duplicates and given myself more options. So I think that's worked out really well, just being able to have some options, because sometimes you just get a week where a team's not playing or somebody's injured and then you're like, oh, I can't get a team in. So now I always feel as if I can get at least 4 or 5 really good teams in, and that's probably why I'm doing well, to be honest, because it gives me a better chance of getting a card or one team smashing it or whatever. But what about yourself? Like, I know you bought a few super rares and stuff over the summer, and you were saying like it's good that you can kind of rebuild again without prices been insane like they were in like March and stuff.
Yeah, it was a real. I felt it was a real second wind, and I think we've all done really well out of it trading wise. And even now, like I'm building these lineups and like it's MLS super rares that I'm putting everywhere, and it is really kind of reminding me of like when I started on SoRare, and even like maybe my first 4 or 5 months before I really started hitting big wins and growth in the platform and all the rest of it. Because my angle was always, I'm so, and this is a wee bit maybe egotistical, right? But it's like, I'm so much better than everyone else on this. I'm going to find players that everyone thinks is shit that are really good. I'm going to buy them, put them in my team, and I'll do well in D4. All these other guys, they don't really care about D4, but me, I'm taking it seriously. And then that was always my kind of approach. I feel that I'm getting kind of deja vu of that, but at D2, and it's all with MLS super rares, because I'm thinking to myself, everyone's going to be hitting these with European cards, challengers, champions, whatever, and thinking, oh, these are the best cards in the world. But the Asians and MLS guys, it's out of 100. You know what I mean? So for me, I feel like I'm well prepared to go into that division compared to what maybe an outside opinion would be if you looked at it, just like, oh, it's a bunch of MLS super rares. I've got some European ones, of course, but I'm getting that same vibe of I can't wait. I just want to beat people I shouldn't beat. That's really the kind of the core of what I'm talking about here, So I feel good in that respect. Ross, I know you're kind of off camera. I was going to swing it around to you, but Ross's approach
I'm still here.
You're still here, yeah. Your approach over the last couple of months has been wildly different to definitely McBride's. In terms of acquiring and whatever.
I've got some internet issues, but they're not too bad when the video off. You're right. I've definitely consolidated a lot. You can tell by even just like what I've picked up, the strategy's changed. It's generally kind of a younger collection, but not so young to much risk on it. I still feel like anybody that's 20 and younger still has like, they could look great until they're 22, 23, and they could easily fall off. I think when you've got over the sort of 24 hill, 25, you've either kind of made it or you haven't to an extent. You get later career revivals, but if we're talking a sort of taking the majority of players, they'll have either hit their potential by 25 or they'll be there. It's like you've got a good idea of where their career's going to go after that. So try to stick around that sweet spot and maybe just slightly before their prime, and they're still getting great performances out of them. But obviously now there's D2s involved, and the D2s I can get without compromising other divisions too much. Like I think I've got 2 D2s out this week, and I still think my D3s are the strongest line. So nice. And then the D4s maybe I've neglected a little bit. That's the only thing I would say. I maybe like to be up near that maybe 100 card mark. And I think I could pad that out with some rares that I maybe had before, but they need to be a different profile, because I think I was at peak maybe like 130 cards, but a lot of these were like they're cards that are sort of much of a muchness. They're in there and they're just there because I was holding on to them, and I just decided to cut the sentiment with a lot of them, and it worked out really well. Some of the prices are just like they've just shot down a lot for them, but over a gradual amount of time, just as more supply comes in. And I kind of realized like I put a lot of these cards in the chopping block and just thought, would I want them in 2 years' time, 3 years' time? Maybe not. Some of them were definitely not. So it's sort of zooming out a bit, and I'm trying to zoom out a lot more now. And I also, like we spoke about a little bit earlier, try and future-proof it a little bit more. So yeah, strategy's changed. Happy where we're at. I think we're a few cards like up on the lie, and that's sort of down to myself maybe shedding too much, too quickly. But I'm sure there's somebody sitting in Coinbase that can maybe find its way back into SoRare somehow.
Yeah, but that was a great result. You had
time to buy is good now. Like time to sell is good. That was a great result, but yeah, like I was obviously buzzing off that, and then I've not been able to build on it since. This is kind of it's tough when you've only got 70 cards, and then you've got the midweekers, and you're down to like 1 or 2 playable lineups, and as soon as you get a DMP or someone doesn't start, it just kills a midweek game week. So then you're only picking up prizes sort of once a week, which is still great. You know what I mean? When you get anything from the midweekers, you're laughing. Like I got a tier 2, was it last midweek, and it was Matthew Hoppe, and that was like most people would be annoyed with that because he's not playing, but like to us 3, we were thinking, yes, bingo from tier 2. That's jackpot. Yeah, we were all laughing, and most people say that you'd get people saying oh, he's not even in a scoreable league, and blah blah blah. Sometimes you've got to look beyond that. Like, why are people playing 0.2 for him? Because he's an American wonder kid, like a big one at that, I would say.
Any other Schalke card, I would probably agree with the general public on this, but Matthew Hoppe definitely is a wee gem of a tier 2, you know, because he could easily be a 19-year-old equivalent guy who just isn't
100%.
anywhere near the team anyway. So what difference does it make what league he's in? If he's not in the team, he's not in the team.
Yeah.
Sorry,
The
Hendo
other
McBride,
thing I
do you want to
find-
say something?
Exactly.
Yeah, the other thing is find interesting as well as we were picking the lineups earlier, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to prioritise my global three and what a strong team in that, and I've got 4 out of 5 in that are playing in Asia. So like the Asian prices and the like have went down a lot, and I can kind of understand why. Obviously, maybe not as much interest. The league's going to finish sooner, all that sort of stuff. But sometimes I look at my lineups and my guys who are scoring the most are not the guys who are playing in Europe. So sometimes good to think out of the box a wee bit and say, well, why do you still want to have Free Avaco and Bitgaram and Gustavo and John Book and all these guys or whatever? But the reality is those are the guys at the moment for me are smashing in the biggest scores. So like I made a mistake at the start. I was always like, yeah, I'm going to play Havertz. I'm going to play Havertz, and they've shite all season. I'm going to play Havertz. Going to play well this week, and if I just bloody well left him out and played some random 21-year-old guy from Asia who was like, he would have probably been scoring more. So like when you're looking at your lineups, just try and pick guys who like you think are going to score well. So if you see a guy who's in Asia, he's 100 quid and he's averaging 60, then yeah, go and buy him and like go and get him, because like that's going to help
You
your
can still go in
lineup.
global. You can still put him in global.
Yeah, exactly.
You put him in Asia if you want, and you can go and get you more players in a similar ilk. You could end up with a really strong team, or you could pick up some invaluable super rares. But yeah, obviously, the secondary to that, Havertz is undoubtedly going to be more collectible in the future. Like I think we all know that.
Yeah.
But this is where like there's sort of, like I say, you can split it into two, and then it's these cards that like merge the two together. I think they're the ones that have got like the real massive upside long term. And then the collectibles got upside because they're collectible, and the SO5 ones will always have upside as long as demand outweighs supply for certain cards, which at the moment I think it does a lot. People are still willing to sell cards, but it's only because they're getting a lot of fucking money for them.
Yeah,
That's the point.
Yeah.
As long as people want to buy them, it's going to stay like that.
Yeah. And also they're selling because they're getting a lot compared to what they paid. So a lot of people take profit because things have risen a lot as well. So you might find that like people get really valuable cards, they haven't gone up a lot, but they're winning things for somebody recently, they'll be less like likely to sell them. Whereas somebody paid 50 quid for somebody and all of a sudden he's worth 500 quid, even though that those cards are winning other cards regularly, you'll still people say, well, I'm going to cash out now, I'm going to sell them, I'm going to sell one and bank some profit, all that sort of stuff as well. So it's
exactly the same as people like if you bought Bitcoin at £10, it's now £1,000. That's if you sell at £1,000 and you have 100 extra money, that's a great trade. And then if you zoom out and Bitcoin went to 20 grand, well, unlucky. Doesn't mean you made a bad trade necessarily.
You still made profit, yeah. But just because obviously, like we're in a market where there will be people who have made quite a lot, so they'll be like, well, yeah, I'll turn that over. But I think it might be interesting, like with these 1 out of 100, what's going to happen when you've got way more people coming in? Because like I find sometimes, right, I look at super rares and say there's 6 super rares available, and I look at who's got them, and it's like PSU2 fans, Surface Tear, Missile, blah. You look through them, and you think, right, I'm not fucking getting one of those. like there's like the only chance I'm going to get one of those, I'm going to have to win one, or somebody's going to have to win one that doesn't want it, and then is going to list it on the market. So that's quite interesting as well, because I think that the reason a lot of the super rares are like just really difficult to get is because it just depends who owns them. Like you're just not getting them.
I don't know if you've ever came across this as well, you probably have, but when you find a super rare that's in like a dead account of some description, you're like, please just answer your emails, man. I've sent you a decent offer.
Yeah,
I mean?
it's a funny story. There's a guy who'd messaged me on Twitter like previously, right? And he's been on SoRare for like 5 or 6 months, and he bought like 5 crap cards, and he bought the boy Nuruddin at Yupin. So he messaged me the other night and he said, "What the fuck's happening? This guy's worth 900 quid." So he paid like 20 quid for him, and he's logged on. Like he's seen like my Twitter and stuff. And he's logged on, and he's realised that Nuruddin's now worth 900 quid. So it's just stuff like that's insane. But you can see like why somebody would be inactive, because I think I've got 5 guys here who are worth 100 quid. All of a sudden they log in and they've got a plain goalkeeper that's selling 0.4.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it's
Such
mad.
a turnaround, man. That is mad.
It's crazy. But in a good way as well. We see why people just forget
Exactly.
about it.
But that's what I think. Like, see, even if you had a dead SoRare account, whether it's 3 months old or 3 years old, you will probably, if you have ever made a SoRare account, you will be aware of Ethereum and cryptocurrency movement. So see, like this year when it's been rocketing, there's dead accounts that are like 2 years old and they've got some fucking belters now. And it's like, surely you know Ethereum's up at $3,000 right now. Surely you're logging into SoRare and seeing if you can sell a card or two, get some ETH in your pocket. But they don't.
Yeah.
It's fucking
Or
frustrating.
surely, I suppose unless maybe something's happened and they've lost the login, but surely you're getting emails or something. So like somebody sends an offer through and they offer you 100 quid, surely you're getting an email through saying somebody, whatever. Like, because I know there was like referral abuse and you see these anonymous accounts and everything, but that's guys that have actually closed it down. So the other ones are in theory active accounts type thing. So I suppose that's kind of interesting. But the thing is, like, SoRare can't do anything about that because when the card's sold, they don't own it anymore, and then it's on the blockchain. So unless somebody tracks that person down, then that card's just going to stay there, which is a shame. But what else can you do about it? You're going to have to track that person down to get ownership. Like, but that's probably perfect. That's fair enough, isn't it? Like, there's only way you can get it. So
Imagine you died and they'd had your passwords, and then that was it.
I was thinking about that actually because I was going through my mind. It's like message my pal. By the way, can you tell Eve that my collection's worth 65F? Aye, you don't really want to think about stuff like that, do you? But
I mentioned it because we were going through like at my new job, we have to do financial health checks and stuff like that, and part of it's talking about like life insurance, like selling people potential.
Oh, can you?
Obviously, instructing them how to get life insurance. Oh, sorry, lads. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll cut out the now.
Right. Well, he's cut out Horvath's on a Stormer, 5 saves, 2 from inside the box, 7.4 SoFA score rating. You think he's going to stay in for the weekend?
Aye, 100%.
Come on.
You keep that goalkeeper in, don't you? What I was going to throw back to you, on Mark, was where you're talking about how you look at who owns the super rare and like, oh, that guy's a write-off. You wait for the next auction, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Over the last 3 months, who has been the one that got away, the one that you didn't realise maybe that information early enough on, and you let an auction go by, or a secondary market listing that you thought, and yeah, I'll get it tomorrow, and then it just went away, something like that.
In terms of rares or super rares, well, thinking back, like my biggest regret is like the Martin van der Voort you had, the one you bought, the 1 out of 100.
Yeah.
So he was on the market a couple of times at 100 quid, and I was being a stingy bugger, and I wouldn't pay 100 quid for him because it wasn't playing. So he's one of my very first ones. The other one was Guri. So like I remember really well, we were at Safari Park with the wee man, Fraser's messaged me and said there's Guri in the market for 70 quid. And I'm like, I'm not paying 70 quid for him. I'm at the Safari Park. And eventually he went, and obviously he's worth like, he's just sold the other day for 1.1. It's mad. I think more recently, just in general with super rares, like obviously I kind of bought loads of rares, and I bought a couple of supers. I bought like Frankie Maya, I bought Trusty, guys like that, but I always went for cheaper ones. So if I had to go back and change my strategy a wee bit, I would have invested more into super rare cards earlier, because obviously all cards have all increased, but the super rare prices are so high now that like if you want to go and buy a right good one, you're going to have to sell a couple of good rares, or you're going to have to come up with a big wad of money type thing. Try to think if there's been anybody in particular recently that's kind of got away in terms of auction or other. More recently, like just looking at Aronson at 0.3, like we're pretty certain the day before it was going to be Orsted. Seen the last thing, seen him at 0.3, and then now he's going for an F. Like that's kind of an obvious one because that was pretty obvious to buy. And fair play to this Joshua guy or whatever. He went and bought them all for Pavel or whatever. Like
He's back down now.
Back down.
Yeah.
I would like a Salzburg Aronson, like a rare. I wouldn't mind one. But see you're talking about their super rare Aronson. That's normally that is a McBride buy. You love your Shakhtar cards. You don't mind them not being SO5 eligible. Just put them in the bank, baby. Wait for them to come up.
I think what happened was I never bought him in the MLS, and then although I hadn't bought him in the MLS, and then he moved, and say he was like 50 or 60 quid, and like the issue at that point was other guys in the MLS were 50 or 60 quid. So he was still 50 or 60 quid, so he wasn't necessarily cheaper, although he moved. So I think, well, I'm not going to buy him. But then I did buy other guys, like what Cade Cowell for 50 quid, and like he's went up a lot as well. So I'm always kind of looking at, right, what is this guy's price? So a good example the other day is Trubin Super Rares went 1 out of 10 has gone for 0.6. Now, like if you're looking for an under 23 super rare goalkeeper, if you get one for around about an F, you've had you've won the lottery. So like I think what much was Muric 1.25, and I thought that was actually not too bad. So Bodart and guys like that are all 2F or whatever. So like sometimes like if you look across players' careers, like this is a 19-year-old goalkeeper. Okay, Ukraine doesn't count just now, but if you can put that money away for a year or a year and a half, it makes himself humongous value. Like, and you can still use them midweek and things like that, obviously. The other thing you got to remember about midweek stuff is the dynamic rewards, though. So if that's changed about a wee bit, so some of the kind of that might be affecting some of the Shakhtar prices just now as well, because they're only playing midweek, and midweek the prizes are a lot lower on the weekends. So people start factoring that stuff in. I did try and get Lassina Traore's super rare, and I thought it was mental that the guy paid like 700 quid for it. And I think the one went this week for like an F. So like, did he go for an F? No, it might not have been that much actually. It might be talking rubbish. Let me see. It was over £1,000 anyway. I don't think it was an F. I think it was maybe about 0.7 or something.
Hendo, what about you? If you had a super rare that's like slipped through your grasp over the last couple of months that you're still having sleepless nights about?
Yeah, mate. Had a couple. As you can see, I'm on the phone now and I'm on 4G, so sums up my internet at the moment. Even though it's fibre, but that's fucked. Anyway. Yeah, so I remember this was obviously pre-season. We were trying to build up. I can't remember how much it was, that Barco. I think it was maybe 0.2, 0.225 potentially. And you picked one up, and I was going to pick one up as well. Didn't bother. That was a miss. Austin Trusty was just over 0.1. That was a miss. I remember saying to you, I was like, they've got Wilson, they've got Abubakar, they've got Trusty, and they had I don't know what the other guy's name is. 4 centre backs, and they'd been playing a 3. I was like, there's a good chance that Trusty plays, I think. And then I don't know why I pulled out. I honestly couldn't tell you because I had the Ethan.
Probably talked you out of it.
I can't even remember. No, I talked myself out of it. I can't remember why. I don't know. Yeah, I honestly can't remember. And then so that one hung over me. I'm trying to think, was there any other, like, there's a few bullets that I've dodged, to be fair. I think there was talk of like Diego Rossi once at like
Krasnodar.
Can't even remember. Like it was over 2 ETH anyway. For the super rare. Now I'm not saying you can get them much cheaper now, but it was right. In fact, no, it was more than that. It was like 2.5 ETH. And it was right as the red and links come out. Or maybe it was after it. I can't really remember anyway. He was linked away. And he had like a minor dip, and now his rare's only he's got a really weird disparity with his rare and super rare. His rare's now like 0.26 or something, 0.27, but his super rares are still like 2 ETH, so they're like nearly 10x. Because the people who have got them are obviously playing D2 and they know what they're up to. Like it's a big scoring card and going under 23 and stuff like that. He's someone who I should have bet the bill ages ago and just bought, but I've not, and now I might not.
I remembered one, Quinny. So I'd sold a card, and it was back at the point where the F was taking a day, and I think Evgen, the boy that plays at AZ, I really like him, so I ended up buying his super rare recently. So I just made a complete arse of it twice. So somebody bought it. So it was up for like 330 quid or whatever. And somebody bought it before my effort cleared. So, but I'd sold a card, so I'm not going to be depositing here. Sold somebody the time I went for it, got it, and then it went on auction recently, and I missed the end of the auction. So I bid in the morning, went into a meeting, I forgot about it. I missed the end of the auction. I ended up giving the guy like a £250 flip on the same day because he wanted it. It's like, so I'm definitely going to buy it, but I think he paid like 400 or something. I ended up paying him like 600 and throwing in a card because I really wanted them. But then it was the 5 out of 10 for the previous season, so obviously wasn't sure when the Eredivisie cards were going to come, and also think he'll get more game time because Stings is left as well. So I was thinking, oh, I'm just going to get it. Like, you know, like I've sold a couple of cards. I know it's stupid. Like, the guy just bought it for 400 and paying like 600 plus a card, but I just messaged him, said, look, I'm happy to give you a flip. Like, I would have went one more or whatever, what you're looking for, and ended up just buying them. So that was annoying, but sometimes you just get a wee bit unlucky as well. Like, you know, like if F had cleared a bit sooner that day, I would have bought that card and I saved myself like 400 quid, but it didn't, and just the way it goes.
What about you, Quinny, mate? You surely you can finish us off here, and surely there's one or two bad ones or good ones or whatever.
Jose Fuentes.
Yeah.
I wish I fucking bought him. You wrote, I was so hyped about him getting a card. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to get one of him. And then I don't know why, but when the super rares were up, it wasn't scoring great at the time. And I think I just thought, I don't really need that super rare. You know, I'll kind of leave him now. And then Marky Boy picks one up, and fuck me, man, he goes to the moon.
I bought the 1 out of 10, and then the 2 out of 10 was still the same price, and then he went nuts. So the one you missed, probably the second one. Like, you were right, he wasn't playing great, but it was only 215 quid for the 1 out of 10. So I just thought I took that as a value. If he doesn't play well for months, I don't really care because it's 200 quid for a young super rare. And then obviously, by the time the third or the fourth one had come out, he'd hit like, you know, 4 or 5 goals and assists and in a row in terms of games and stuff. But I actually wasn't expecting that of him. I was expecting that he might be a strong scorer and he would get some goals and assists. I wasn't expecting he would go on a big run like that, and then he just ballooned. But then you find that like with like obviously, especially probably Champion America type cards as well, you go on a good run and like people are just all of a sudden something that's been 30 quid's going for like 300 or 400 or whatever, because you know it's like people don't know as much about the youth players. So like if you've got a guy who's crap and he scores 3 games in a row, some people look at him and I know he's rubbish. I know that he's just outperforming himself. But if the guy comes in, he's 18, scores 4 goals in a row, some people think he's going to be the next Ronaldo or whatever. And there's nothing to suggest that he might not, because people don't know enough about him. And then the price just goes like woof, through the roof type thing. I'm quite excited about like Ryan Gold and stuff cards coming. Like I think like Gold will be good.
I'd like a gold. Are the feelers going to fight over the unique?
No,
we're all
no Talis Magno card yet either, so Talis Magno will be a good one. Although he's not really done much, so he might not sell for as much as you might think, because he's not played much. But it would be good if we could get the card before he would. And Klamala's not on yet, is he? He's been doing pretty well.
Yeah, Kamal was all right as well. I think MLS will definitely need a new faces auction. You know, we've not had one of them in a while. They've got plenty of cards to supplement us with, obviously. But I said that to you guys in the group chat we're in, like in the Austria League, they definitely don't have full allotments out. You know, I did a stream going through the Y Scout stuff the night before the Austrian cards came on auction. So I was going through all last season's data with like all the members on the channel, and looking at all the players that did well overall on last season. Because if you look at SoRare Data and a lot of the football apps, all they had at that point in time available to anyone on the app would have been like 2 matches worth of stats, which is very inaccurate and, you know, misleading. And all the favourites, I can't remember how many guys we favorited. Say we favorited 40. I got like 12 notifications the day the Austrian League came out. Sort of thing. So not saying that there's like, there's many more amazing cards to come or anything. When you're doing that kind of, you know, when you're prospecting, as you guys will know, like sometimes you're taking like, there's like one indicator there of something I like, or I like that little glimpse of something I've seen. Sometimes, you know, you're favouring somebody on a kind of whim, maybe a bit of a hope more than anything. The point being, I think there'll be ample amount of cards to be reissued and stuff like that as well from what we've
Yeah.
got already.
So Salzburg, the first guy I thought of, because obviously Daka's away, was Adeyemi, and there's no Adeyemi card yet, but they have got Koita and they've got Benjamin Sesko as well. So, and like obviously Koita's out for a wee while, and like they put in 2 guys who are 18 and they win 7-1. You're just like that's just incredible. And like I know what people are saying obviously about the stacks and everything at Salzburg, but Salzburg will get ripped to bits like quite often, obviously, with Leipzig and everything as well. So anyway.
Hope you enjoyed that, guys. Me and the lads, we had a lot of fun pushing that video out. Just while the chat, you can probably tell we were all just kind of cutting the, chewing the fat with each other, just kind of spitballing, knocking some stuff around. What's about to pop on screen now? Some other stuff I've made. Hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.
It's a tyrant.